because at the end of the day, officers make decisions in split seconds, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so there's a tremendous amount of training that goes into it. And then there's, in an incident such as the one that happened Friday, there's a lot of second guessing after the fact. Kind of go into, first of all, those split second decisions that officers have to make, and then the training that is so important.
Sure, yeah, that's a good way to talk about it too. So there's a tremendous amount of training. We have a very high level of training, but remember that applying training is nuanced, right? And it is, the use of force is a continuum, right? How much pressure you apply is always a continuum. So officers have to make those decisions in the field in an active investigation. And sometimes you can do everything right and bad things will still happen. So yes, there's a tremendous amount of training, Rachel, right? And there's a lot of review. You can't get better if you don't review, right? And it's a critical critique, but it's in an effort to improve, right? To say, here's what we need to consider. Here's what we need to change in our training, or if at all. In this case, it wasn't so much lack of training. It was just that the circumstances in this instance led to this individual effectively hiding a gun that we didn't catch in the field. And a tragedy occurred because of it. That happens. It's happened. I've been an officer for 37 years. I could name many instances where that's happened here, around the world, around this country. You're not going to make 400,000 calls a year and not have things like that happen. It's sad, it's tragic outcomes, but you learn, you move on. And remember, the only person at fault for the shooting is a suspect who just committed a homicide and then engaged our officers with a weapon. So we keep that in focus.
100%. And I'd like to dig more in on, I think, to the public, hearing that a suspect was patted down, placed in the back of a police unit, and then a gun was not found. And you say that it's common. Kind of put that into perspective, because
no, it's not common.
It's not common. That's a misstatement, but
it happens.
It happens, right? So to the public, they're shocked. But how does something like that happen?
Yeah, I don't think the public's shocked. I think the public understands, right? How it happens is, let's look at this case. There's a homicide that occurred. We didn't have a suspect information. We just had a general vehicle description. So when that officer or those officers pull over a vehicle, how far do they go, right? So we'll critique afterwards, and we are continuing to critique. Maybe they should more aggressive stop. But in their mind, they just have a vehicle. They're stopping, they contact them, pat them down, sit them down while they identify them, and then, which is the way you would want to be treated, correct? So all these things are being measured and applied in real time by the officers. Again, it's our job to critique. It's our job to become better, but we also should understand that this is a dangerous job for a reason. Every officer who walks up to a traffic stop, to a vehicle, right, could say, well, maybe I should have approached from the passenger side, right? You can always critique. I walked up to a house for domestic disturbance. Maybe I should have parked here instead of there. Those critiques always happen. Tragedy still happens. Our focus right now is to get these officers well, to take care of their families, to make sure they have everything they need, and that we support them. This case will go where it goes. It's not a whodunit, right? We still have information to gather, but the case will go where it goes, and we're going to take care of our officers. And the public's going to take care of our officers. You're going to take care of our officers, right? That's how that works. So that's what I want to make sure that is impressed upon the folks that are going to watch this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a tremendous outpouring of support for the officers. Yeah. Ultimately, I don't know how police do their job, right? I don't know, and I think you make a good point that if you are detaining somebody, you don't really know who they are yet, so they may or may not be, in this instance, was he handcuffed? And maybe he wasn't, because officers didn't know what we know now.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So what's the thought process that goes behind the level of which a suspect is handcuffed?
Well, just what I explained. Just what I explained. How much information do I have? How far do it go with this stop as I investigate further? And look at the world right now. So officers are rightfully a little hesitant. Am I too aggressive, right, or not aggressive enough? And sometimes things happen, and you'll second guess that for the rest of your life.
Right, and do you mind if I
No, jump in.
So Chief, just starting off, how is, Officer Castro-Cannon doing? Can you
I
give us
appreciate
an
that.
update on her condition?
She's doing well. She's there's a catastrophic injury, so she's doing well. She's a very strong young lady. She has a great family and a great support system. So she's doing she's doing exceptionally well, in my opinion.
That's good to hear.
She'll have a long road, but And Joe, he's doing well. He'll be out for some time, but his injuries could take some rehab too, or will take some rehab.
And I know there's been an outpouring from the community
Excuse me.
in support as well.
Of course, there always is. We have a great community. We have a great community. They work with us, and we work with them. If you were at the scene, you see how much the community came out, right?
Right.
So,
And I know we spoke last Friday when the shooting happened, but can you walk us through how the suspect was patted down and how that weapon might have been missed? Like you said, it's a fast-paced situation. It's thinking on your feet, and of course we don't know what that was like right in that moment. But if you could just walk us through that process.
yeah, the traffic stop was made, based on the vehicle description. The officer, I watched the video. She did pat him down. She did pat him down and put him in the back seat of her car. Unfortunately, where he had the gun placed, and I haven't seen that yet. There's some backseat video that needs to be reviewed. Wasn't found, wasn't caught, and when they re-engaged him, he engaged in a gunfight. I mean, it's not a mystery at this point, right? Like I said, and it's not as much second guessing as saying, hey, let's be cognizant of our, it's a very dangerous job, right? It's a very, very dangerous job at times, so. And these officers these men and women are gonna go, they're still out there. They're going out there every day doing the same thing over and over again, right? And they keep this in their mind. And they know these things are gonna happen. Again, you can do everything right, and bad things can still happen.
Right. And we've seen, some photos circulating on social media and such of, that moment when the suspect is in the vehicle and an officer is down by the side of the patrol vehicle. What can you tell us? Was he handcuffed or not?
No, I don't believe he was handcuffed. I believe he was patted down and sat in the back seat of the car. Yeah. And then when they contacted him to follow up on an identification process is when the gunfight started.
And what is, typically the protocol? I mean, why was he not handcuffed in that moment?
He wasn't, because that's a decision they made. That's a decision they made based on what they had at the time. So again, those are the things that are reviewed and discussed. And is there a change in policy needed? I don't think so. I think we trained very well. I think, but we'll reinforce training, the need to be very, very safe and cognizant. So, and that's every critical incident that happens. It's not this. We're not picking out a singular incident and all of a sudden we're reviewing. We do that with every incident.
Right. And was there, do you know if the same weapon that he used to, shoot at the officers was the same weapon used?
I don't have the ballistics report. I assume so, but I haven't confirmed that.
Chief, would you mind if I ask a couple of quick questions?
We're gonna say that right now.
Sorry, let me just slide over here. So, and you covered that pretty much. I know it's got to go through review as well, and this is all hindsight, but obviously you investigate these things to make sure it doesn't happen again or try to prevent it from happening again. Did you find out yet how he got the gun in? Did he hide it somewhere?
Well, obviously he hid it somewhere on his person, right? And it was missed in the pat down. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? He had it on his person when he sat in the backseat of that car, so.
Okay. And, will body cam be released at any point?
Eventually, this case is going to be active for a while. You understand that? So that those things are tied up by the AG's office for a long time while the case is going to court, dropping these things here.
Right, thank you.
Some of that, I think there's some photo and some things out there already. So, and again, it's not a whodunit. It's not a mystery. There's nothing to hide. We certainly don't want to ruin an integrity of a case, though. That would be more egregious, right? If we taint a case that needs to be prosecuted.
just clarification for me. So from my understanding, there were 4 charges of aggravated, attempted murder, is that correct?
Attempted capital murder.
Attempted capital murder and 1 of murder, correct? But if there were 3 officers involved, who's the 4th that was the victim in the?
Well, review of some of the body cam footage shows that he did in fact point the gun, maybe even shot at another officer that was not struck. So
Okay.
all those count.
Perfect.
And now I have a question as well. You know, this started off with a incident earlier in the day. I spoke with residents, people on Facebook. They're still worried in the community. Do you have a message for the people that live in that area?
The original homicide, 4,900 heirs. Now, again, it's not a whodunit. These two, we believe, were known to each other. Probably some bad blood going back years. That's a general statement, but that's the gist of what we're getting right now. There's no concern about this individual, right? Again, this was not a crime spree. It was not something out in public. It was between 2 individuals.
No, I have one more question. So, can you share if Jokas has any previous criminal history? Or?
He does, yeah, he has. One thing we found that I saw was that he had been arrested for felony possession of a weapon. I think he was on probation for that. So, but I believe there's some more criminal history before that.
Were the officers aware of that during
No.
the stop? No.
No, we didn't know who he had. Again, all we had was a suspect vehicle description, white van, right? So
And
They would go-
speaking of his previous history, I believe one of them was aggravated assault on a public servant. Was that a police officer? Do we know the background on that case?
I don't have his criminal history. I'm sure all that you can find that. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't out of the blue for this guy, right?
Well, let's dig into his criminal history a little bit. So he had felony convictions. He was given a deferred sentence for carrying a gun. After being convicted as a felon.
It wasn't deferred. He's on probation for it.
No, it was deferred.
Was it deferred? I thought
Yeah, it
it
was
was. I
deferred.
thought it was several
Then
months.
there were 2 motions to revoke filed. He absconded. He stopped reporting to probation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, we now have this incident. Additionally, he had multiple positive UAs. He failed to complete terms of his probation. How frustrating is it to you as an officer when you see this happening?
Well, it does happen, right? I'm not going to get into the adjudication side of it. They have their reasons for what they do. But yeah, we don't like to see folks over and over again in the field and have to deal with them over and over again. I'm sure it's very frustrating for the officers in the field and frustrating for me to see 2 officers in the hospital and having to recover from somebody that probably should have been in prison a long time ago. But it is what it is at this point, right? I can't go back in time and make those judgments now, right? So what we deal with is what we have in front of us. And that's how we approach this. First, rehab these officers, continue with this case, make sure this fellow stays behind bars.
And just to clarify, because I believe I heard you say it earlier, you said you don't feel the need to have to change any protocols or.
Well, at first blush, right? So again, that's a comprehensive review that goes on. Training is reviewing this, and our field supervisors will review this. So there's a whole lot that goes into that process. It's really comprehensive. So, but we have very high standards of training. Again, all those are applied as deemed necessary by the officer in the field. So it's not. It says this, so do this. There's nuances to everything. As I explained, it's a difficult job. Yeah.
Right. And is there anything, Chief, that you can share from that connection between the 2 shootings? Any new updates or details?
That I can share? No. That the connection is simply the suspect vehicle for the first shooting was put out, and the officers doing their job found that vehicle and pulled it over. So it's, again, not a whodunit. It's not a mystery. Now it's just we have to work through what we have. And that's what we're going to do.
Let me
Yeah.
sort of rephrase the question. Is there any additional information related to the original homicide? So, for instance, witnesses claim that Rojas yelled out the window, "You owe me," shot from the window, then got out, shot him in the head. Was there a connection between the 2 individuals that you're aware of?
Well, we believe there was. We believe, I don't know what that is though. I don't have the motive yet, right? CID probably has it, they're probably, but I don't have that right now, so. And it's not something we'd release, it's still active. He's gonna be tried on both counts, right? So, you have 2 active investigations. But you're doing a lot of good work, Rachel, that's good background.
How difficult is it for you and for other officers that work closely with those other officers that were injured, having to come to work, focus on doing their job, but also, feel the love for their fellow comrade, for their fellow officer? How difficult is that?
Well, it's always difficult to see your troops be injured in the line of duty. Remember, we asked the people in the prime of their life to go out and do some of the toughest jobs, make the toughest decisions that can be made, and tragedy happened. So here we have a strong bond within our agency and then within the community, and our officers are committed to their jobs. They're committed, and they come back day after day. You know that we've suffered some tragedy over the last few years, and our officers still roll their sleeves up and they get back to work, and at the same time care for each other. So that'll continue, Preston. That'll, it's what they do. I'm sure what they do around the country, but here I think we have a great bond and a great sense of purpose.
Chief, last question, or at least for me. The arrest affidavit identifies the officers involved just by their last name. Can you provide their first name, perchance?
No.
Okay.
No.
Chief, and then lastly for me, I know, you asked about the message for the community, but I know that, it's not only, of course, been, I can imagine, difficult for you all here as officers, like Preston mentioned, but, for the community as a whole, I think it's been a bit difficult in terms of morale, seeing, again, that outpouring of support, of course, people care about their officers. So, message for them, people that have reached out, that have shown that support.
Well, we appreciate everybody who's reached out. We've had a lot of folks too. A lot of folks want to give and help, and they want to do something to contribute. It's cathartic, right? You feel like you have to do something, but you're not sure what you have to do, what you can do. Our communities has great outpouring for support, and I want to say I appreciate that. Number one, I always have. We have a great relationship, as I've said half a dozen times now. And we'll say thank you, of course, and I hope that continues. And again, we'll keep on doing our job. Keep on, relating with the public and earning their trust. Just like this interview is intended to do. We're not hiding anything. It's just things we have to go through and review and move forward with, right? Yeah.
I made a comment this morning that I don't think the public truly understands either the judicial process, they don't understand what happens from the police, what you're allowed to release and when. We had a lot of people questioning why your department wasn't releasing the name of the suspect. And we understand it's because until that suspect is booked in, right?
Correct.
Can you explain kind of the procedure? It's not that you're trying to withhold information, but you're limited in certain ways.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Our policy is to wait till they are booked, because sometimes they'll do their fingerprints and it's actually somebody else, right? And the last thing we want to do is put out an erroneous name and somebody else is now the name on everybody's lips as committing a homicide. So our due diligence is to wait till they're processed and we have accurate information of who they are. We have a good idea and we can say, pretty confidently, but until we're absolute, we're not going to do that. I think that's the right thing to do. I know people some folks are inquisitive, they want to know, they think, I get it. And they will soon enough.